All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, market close, not market open. I don't want the market to ever close. I don't want the market to ever close. It is Friday, September 20th. We got a lot to talk about, 3:47 p.m. The biggest news that is happening right now as we get into the market close is Palantir. It was at 37 for like a second, 36.99. Now it's just going right down. But it's Intel. Intel's up 5% right now. It was at $23. And the reason for that is because Qualcomm apparently approached Intel and they said, hey, do you want a buyout? And it hasn't happened yet, obviously, but that's what's kind of driving this stock right now. So Wall Street Journal just put this out literally a couple of minutes ago. Chip giant Qualcomm made a takeover approach to rival Intel in the recent days, according to people familiar with the matter. A deal for Intel, which had a market value of roughly $87 billion early on Friday, would be massive and come as the chip maker has been suffering through one of the most significant crises in its 5-decade history. A deal is far from certain, the people cautioned. Even if Intel is receptive, a deal of that size is old but certain to attract antitrust scrutiny, though it's also possible that it could be seen as an opportunity to strengthen the country's competitive edge in chips. I actually think that would not be a horrible thing. To get the deal done, Qualcomm could intend to sell assets or parts of Intel to buy others. So here's the question, and Qualcomm's down right here because whenever you acquire a company or even think of acquiring a company, the company that's doing the acquisition usually has their stock go down. What do you think is a fair price for Intel? Qualcomm right here, you can see down 4%. Qualcomm market cap is $180 billion. Intel's $80 billion. So Intel's basically double, or Qualcomm's basically double of Intel. And Intel was once this year, if you look at its year to date, at closer to, so 50 was December 2023. At the top this year before the collapse was 36. And before that, you were at 45. So Intel was closer to a $180 billion market cap, similar to Qualcomm, but since then, that has basically been cut in half. I don't know what a fair market cap would be, but I do know that kid that loaded up on Intel with his grandmother's inheritance, if this ends up happening and he ends up being made whole on the investment in a matter of a couple months, if this acquisition happens versus having to wait years for Intel to turn around, I think he'd be pretty happy. So we will see how this plays out, but this was super interesting towards the end of the day. I'm Beneficial says Intel would probably be better off under Qualcomm management, to be honest. Not sure how good Qualcomm would do with the synergies, but bodes well for Intel. Yeah, and I think a lot of Intel investors, especially the institutional ones that are knee deep into the stock and underwater, I think they would love to get this out of the way. I think they would love to get this out of the way. So that's what we got going on in the world of Intel. We got Bay right here saying, I bought Micron calls for next week's earnings. I don't hate this move, but I think it's mainly a technical move more than a sort of a fundamental analysis move, because we've talked about the fundamental analysis on Micron and the market's kind of just not loving the memory storage space. But Micron's down a lot, dude. This thing was at 150. There you go, 157 on June 18th. Now it's at 90, up about 1.4%. I think their earnings, if it's somewhat decent, you should see the stock get a little bit more momentum. By the way, I've confirmed Chris Camillo to be on the channel. He is the Palantir. He's the guy from Dumb Money who talked about Palantir last week. I don't know if you guys saw that podcast, but him and the Dumb Money crew talked about Palantir. Got in touch with him today, and we'll have him on soon. Not sure exactly when, but probably next week. I would like to do a live stream, so we'll have him on. We'll do a special live stream, maybe just part of the market close. We'll do the last hour and a half of that conversation with him, and that'll be really fun. So it'll be cool to talk to him and get deeper into Palantir. Bsoft says, thank you. Amid personal reasons needed to take Palantir profit, $17 average out of $36.60 today. Just rich evaluation, macro concerns. Hope to get back in at 30. Wouldn't have known about Palantir without you. First of all, congrats, Bsoft, to take some profits. Whenever you take profits, it's good to remember that you've done something that the majority of the world hasn't done, which is invested in an equity, took a risk with your own capital, and you were courageous enough to actually try to do something a little bit different than what the rest of the world is doing. So congrats. I think it's a good sell at 36. The average is 17. I don't know if we get back to 17 again. If we do, it'll be a great sell because you'll get a chance to get back in. I don't know if we'll see 17 again, but if you do see the low 30s, then I think that's not a horrible place to get in as well. Here is Carp talking about the share price. Palantir is officially in the S&P 500. I think they get rebalanced after hours, and then Monday they're like legit in. We had a lot of talk about Carp selling today. with his 9 million shares. I found a video of him talking about the share price a couple years ago. Here's what he had to say. This is when the stock was trading at $6.
Technology companies obsess over their share price, and the last year or so, share prices in tech companies have come down. Are you obsessed with your share price, or you don't care that much?
I guess I'm supposed to say
You do care.
I do. Well, I care
You're
because
one of the biggest shareholders, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, look, the answer that I care because the people who work at Palantir care. I do actually care about our shareholders. I actually especially care about the retail shareholders, the small shareholders.
Notice this was 2022. Everyone who's saying, oh, Karp is playing this whole I love retail shareholders thing as a gimmick. This is when the stock was $6. And once again, he reiterated that he cares about retail shareholders. So I don't think it's a gimmick. I think he genuinely gives a fuck about people that are investing their own capital. And he's been like that for a long time.
I care because the people who work at Palantir care. I do actually care about our shareholders. I actually especially care about the retail shareholders, the small shareholders. But I've been at this 20 years. I know that, when we DPO'd with 700, I think, and 40 million in revenue, and during that, roughly in that phase next year, we ended up with $100 billion valuation. It's as I recently said, I didn't think, luckily I come from a family where I'm at the small table because I'm not an academic. I never thought I was at that good at 45. I don't think I'm that bad at 6. I know how well the company's doing. It's funny, as someone who's been somewhat skeptical of the free market in many ways as a proud progressive and believes that we need to ameliorate the free market by having world-class education and helping people who've been underprivileged. Medium long term, I have enormous faith in our clients, in this case, our shareholders, to figure out if it's working or not. I know we built the product. I built our company as a product that will do very well under these conditions. So I'm obsessed about our company. Do I obsess about the share price every day? No, of course not.
I thought there's some really interesting things he said there that are important to recognize on a day like this. By the way, markets right now. Wow, look at that. Palantir 37.14. I think this is buying from either funds before it legit gets into the S&P 500, which will be official, I think, after hours today and then early morning on Monday, September 23rd. Or this is retail just piling back in right at the close. But look at that, 37.12. We might get our first $37 close in the next 6 minutes. We might get our first $37 close in the next 6 minutes. But so what I'm trying to say here is I think Karp, he just acknowledges in that clip, hey, we got $100 billion valuation after having 700 million in revenue. Like, you can literally tell in the tone of his voice, he's like, that was fucking stupid. Right? He's like, this made no sense in 2021. And but then he says, look, at $6, we don't deserve to be worth only 12 billion either. So I think there's a lot of nuance here. And right now with the Karp sales, I think it's him basically saying, hey, I think the valuation's a little stretched. I'm gonna take some profits, but that doesn't mean that the stock can't go higher. That doesn't mean that the stock has to collapse. That just means that I've been at this company for a long time and I'm taking some profits. And I think that's what we saw with the Karp sale today. Intel right here is up 3.31%. We got Robinhood 22.73. Robinhood did spike to 24.06. When did they spike to that? Today? Was that today? No, that was yesterday. They spiked just now to 22.92. Then it's right back down to 22.73. You've got Rocket Lab right here. Amazing day, up 4%. CrowdStrike, wow. 300 looks like it's on the way. And then you got Palantir right at the close. That's not slowing down. Look at this, up 1.14% on the day. Palantir fell to 35.71 when the market opened. If we hold this and there's not a dump in the next 4 minutes, we are closing above 37, folks. We are closing above 37 for the first time since 2021. 39, remember, is the all-time high on the close. 45 was the all-time high. 39 was the best close we've ever had. 37, it looks, if we survive the next 4 minutes, we're closing above 37. I wonder where that came from. I don't know if this is, it feels institutional. This doesn't feel like retail decided to just buy it at 3:55 p.m. It feels more institutional. It feels like the rebalancing kind of happened in that moment where a bunch of funds just started buying more. Bitcoin right here down about 1.2%, but still holding this 63,000. By the way, in the morning, we were talking so much about Palantir, I didn't realize Michael Saylor bought another 450 million of Bitcoin. So he bought 7,000 Bitcoin, $61,000 average. And our boy Saylor continued to load up. NASDAQ looks like it's going to close red on the day. S&P, we got 3 minutes to the close, is going to hopefully close at above 565, which was the July top. Hit 569 today. Yesterday hit 570. Right now at 567.95, maybe 568 on the close. That'll be really bullish in my opinion if we close 37 on Palantir and 568 on the S&P. And then IWM, small caps down 1%, but a close above 220 I think would be good as well. That wouldn't be the worst thing. Yeah, if you have $37 covered calls, oh my God, dude. You've got to be so annoyed. This is the thing about covered calls, bro. This is the thing. Like you got to be so out of the money to not have to worry about this. But if you have those $37 cover calls expiring today, you're probably really pissed off, especially if you like just went to party and said, all right, I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about this. I can enjoy my weekend. Well, your shares might get called away today. 15 million shares in the past 5 minutes of volume is what we're seeing right here. Or sorry, 15 million shares in 15 minutes of volume, as Tyler posts in the chat. That's a lot of shares. I would imagine that has to be institutions just buying it before S&P 500 or buying it because they have to buy it for their allocation sizings. That's the only way I can justify that surge at the end. I really don't think that's retail. And hopefully we'll see more of those institutions jump in, and we'll see, when that happens over the next few months, or we'll see kind of S&P stocks take a little bit of hit after they get included in the next few months. I think either trajectory is possible. I think Palantir could go to 45, or I think it could fall back to 30. I think there's a 50-50%. Ed Yardeni came out today. He said S&P is going to 6,000 by the end of the year in a melt-up scenario. Then, yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Palantir has to stay in the 30s if we get to 6,000 on the S&P. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it, falls back into those low 30s. So we'll see what happens, but that's what we've got going on right now with Palantir breaking. It could go up or it could go down. Yes, correct. No, but seriously, like it could go up or it could go down. At this point, if it was 22, I would be like, guys, it's like, this is what I said in May after we had a great quarter and we fell to 22. I was like, this is not going to be at 22 for a long time. This is stupid. It's probably, this is just Wall Street being dumb, especially after we got a price target from Tyler Radke, who hates Palantir, to $25. I was like, okay, so the stock's at 22. We had a great earnings, still profitable. Tyler said we're worth 25. This guy didn't even think we were worth $10 back in 2022, if you remember him. Yeah, this thing's going higher. Now it's a little different. Now I could see it going up or down based on the next coming months, simply based on valuation and also based on momentum. All right, we got 15 seconds. It looks like we are going to close above 37, folks, on Palantir. That'll be pretty cool because we haven't closed above 37 in over 3 years. 4 p.m., Friday, September 20th. The stock market is now closed. Wow. Close above 37 on Palantir. Holy crap. Now, the question is, do we tank after hours or do we get to keep this? Do we tank after hours or do we get to keep this? I would imagine that we hopefully get to keep this. We just tanked a little bit, just went no, now it's back up. So we'll see. We'll see over after hours. But the fact that we closed above 37, oh wow. Is that a glitch or is it actually wow, it's below 37 already. Holy shit, dude. What is going on? Now it's back to 37. Now it's 36.95. That was such a weird 1% surge right in the last 5 minutes, but now it's kind of giving it up after hours. Wow. That was interesting. That was very okay. So we'll go back to Palantir. We'll see what happens. But we did have an official $37 close. S&P 500 closed above 568. Not bad for the S&P. S&P went from 565 to 507 back on August 5th. Made a comeback here to 568. New all-time high close on the S&P 500. Not bad at all. Robinhood closed the day at 2273. Tesla closed the day down about 2.3% at 238. By the way, that stream that people were looking for on Farzad's channel, it was a recorded podcast, not a live stream. So sorry about that, but that podcast will be out tomorrow morning on his channel and you guys can check that out. CrowdStrike closed the day up 8%. Holy shit, 299, which means now CrowdStrike year to date. I'll check Apple in a second. Year to date, CrowdStrike. Wow. Look at CrowdStrike's chart, dude. It's up 20% year to date, even after all the shit it went through. At one point, it was at 389, went all the way down to 222 and below 200 in the pre-markets on August 5th, and now right back to 300. So for those that bought the dip on this one, cybersecurity is very real. Companies executing. Still some risks with lawsuits, but it seems like things are headed in the right direction for CrowdStrike. Okay, where's Apple? Did Apple have a bad close? Apple 228. Not that crazy. I mean, Apple down about 1/3%. Nothing too crazy. I mean, Apple, the fact that it's even closer to 230. I know it was at 232 in the beginning of the day, but still, Apple had a really good week. Let's look at the Max 7, how they closed for the day. Microsoft ends about 1%. Apple ends about 1/3. Meta, wow, 561, ends green. Google, 164, ends green. Amazon, 191, ends up 1%. NVIDIA, 116, kind of flat on the day. And then you got Tesla right here down about 2.23%. The Bitcoin stocks, let's go to that. Then we'll talk more about Intel. So Bitcoin kind of flat on the day, down about 1.2%. Coinbase, 170. CleanSpark, basically flat. MicroStrategy was up a little bit. Cypher's up a little bit. Yeah, none of the Bitcoin stocks had too much momentum on the day. And then the semis, again, if you're just joining, Qualcomm apparently approached Intel. Qualcomm with double the market cap of Intel and said, hey, do you want to get bought out? I don't even know what premium you pay for Intel, because Intel's worth $90 billion. For shareholders to get any return, you would have to pay something above $90 billion. I don't know how Qualcomm's going to finance that, given their market cap's only $188 billion. So I don't know. We're going to have to see kind of how that plays out, but that is very interesting. SoFi right here ends the day down 2%, 805. And some of the other semiconductor names, SMCI up 4% of the day, AMD down a little bit, NVIDIA down a little bit, TSM down a little bit, pretty much all flat for the rest of the day. Micron was up a little bit, but Dell as well, flat on the day. What happened those last 15 minutes? I don't know. Let's go back to Palantir. I think it's Palantir now back above 37 in the after hours. I think it was institutions kind of buying up a bunch of shares. There was 15 million shares of volume in the last 15 minutes. So I would imagine institutions came in and they purchased shares before the S&P 500 official inclusion. But that's the only way to explain it. I don't know if they needed to do that literally on today. Maybe that's a rule that they had to. I mean, that's logically makes sense. But that's what we had in that last minute. And that's how we got to close above 37. Okay, cool. Not too bad. That's what we got. Chris says, oh man, it's the weekend. I thought it was Thursday. Nope, it is Friday. It is officially Friday, heading off into the weekend. GameStop as well. Very interesting day. We had some dark pool orders of about 92 million. This one ended up 12% on the day. So if you're into GameStop, nice little green day for GameStop. But those dark pool orders, we're going to see kind of what's that about and if that matters for the long-term trajectory of GameStop. Nike ends the day up 7%. Nike faded off a little bit. It was up 10%. Now it's up 7%. We'll get some analysis on Nike, but didn't have too big of a move. Shopify as well, 78. FedEx was a big loser today. FedEx ends the day down 15%. I believe this is the largest loss for FedEx in their history of being a company, if I'm not wrong, in the stock market, or it's close to one of the days that's their largest loss. So this was a tough day for them. Again, does it signal things are bad with demand for the consumer? Kind of, but it also signals that maybe FedEx is getting their lunch eaten a little bit by Amazon and UPS, and that's kind of the broader issue going on right now. But that's what you got in the context of FedEx. What else? Perhaps Qualcomm would only acquire the chip side of the business. I think that's fair, and they would maybe like sell off things like Mobileye and stuff like that. I don't know, dude. It's a wonky acquisition. Like if like Broadcom was doing this, which is worth 10 times as much as Intel, I could see that kind of more or less happening, even if NVIDIA tried, but there's no way the US government would let NVIDIA, I think, buy any company at the magnitude of Intel size. I also think NVIDIA doesn't want to get into that particular line of business, but I mean, it would be something that would shake things up in the semiconductor space. And I think the government would support it. I think they would say, hey, if this makes Intel more powerful and gets chips created in the United States, maybe this isn't the worst thing in the world. Intel right here up 3% on the day simply because of this news coming out at the close. Also, today was the witching day. That's a good point that David makes. It was the witching day, and that means a lot of stuff expired at the same time today, especially in the derivatives market. I said derivatives, not options, because it makes me sound smarter. So that also could be a reason right at the close, maybe explaining some of the volume. Palantir 37.20 after hours. First close, if we look at the chart on the max basis, last time we were at 37 on the close, February 2021. And then you can see right here, we peaked at 45 January 29th, 2021. So 45 is that level that if we break 45, we could be going to a different stratosphere in terms of the fact that it's going to be pure price discovery. There's going to be zero volume shelf resistance. It's going to be visiting levels it hasn't seen in years. The question is going to be, is that justified from a market cap perspective? And that's going to be up to the market to decide if it's justified for it to be there or not. Amit, what happens to out the money call option holders if they are set to expire before the buyout? Worthless? No, I think, it's a good question. This happened with Matterport. I know people had calls on Matterport at like $5 or $10, and then they IPO'd, or not IPO'd, they got acquired at like $6, $7 a share or something. I'm probably getting the numbers wrong, but I think you get the, I don't really know. I think you get the current return that you're up on the stock, but you don't have the ability to get a higher return, obviously, because of the fact that the stock is restricted to be bought at a certain level and it can't keep going higher. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happens. Has anyone been in a situation where they had an option on a stock going to $10 and it gets bought out at $8? What happens to those call options? I would imagine some of them could potentially go worthless, but the other ones still get compensated for as well. Especially if you're just up like 230. If you're up 200% on the options, maybe you don't go up another 200%, but you get the initial money for being up 200%. Or what happens is maybe the market makers give you the value of that option as if the stock was at that level. So if you have a $10 call on a stock that gets bought out for $8, maybe you get compensated as if the stock got bought out at $8. So the call option decreases to the price of the contract if the stock was $8 at expiration, which based on your entry price also is going to be if you end up positive or not on the position. Are we talking about Intel just got here? Yes, we are talking to Intel. We were talking about Intel with the acquisition news. Very interesting stuff for Intel. I don't think they're going to sell. Here's another question. Well, let's ask a poll in the chat. Do you think Pat Gelsinger will actually sell? Let's do that poll. Does Intel get sold? I don't know if he wants to sell, dude. I think he likes Intel. I think he likes being there. He likes being the CEO. I know he's been consulting all these investment bankers, but I think it's an interesting question on if he actually would want to get the sell. OTM options expire on sale. Okay, so that's another thing that I would imagine happens. Yeah, they would have to expire immediately. There's no way they have any more momentum to get appreciation because the company's getting acquired at that point. I think they sell the foundry business. Isn't that the part that if Intel sold the foundry business and just kept Intel as Intel without the foundry business, I don't know if it's worth that much. And I also don't know if they still want to be a public company at that point, if that happens. Matthias says, I think he likes his stupid bloated pay package. He's in it for as long as he gets paid out. I'm not going to disagree there. I mean, he has a history of being or caring a lot about his pay package. So that could be an argument that also happens. I don't know. It would be such a weird thing if they got bought out because it doesn't seem like an acquisition that makes a ton of sense originally in terms of how it plays out. 0% chance Lena Khan lets Qualcomm buy Intel. I think she would heavily consider the potential because of the United States' desire to have a lot more chips. But if it was NVIDIA buying Intel or Broadcom or any of these other big guys, then I think she would get a little bit more upset. But yeah, I mean, if she blocks that, I don't know, then it's not even worth trying, right? It probably would not even be worth trying. Okay, cool. So let's get a couple updates on some other stuff that we got going on. Rivian had a bad day. Where's Rivian? Rivian is... Wow, wait, why is Rivian down 11% today? Hold on. No one even mentioned this today. When did they fall 11%? Rivian, this was at... Hold on. This was... Today's 9/20. Yeah, today's September 20th. At 9:45, they started falling. I didn't get any comments in the chat on the market open about Rivian. What the heck happened with these guys? Let's see. What happened with Rivian? That is weird. Amid, who actually tracks Rivian? Jason from Technical Tuesday. He loves Rivian. He likes this one. I was going to get into this at $8. Didn't get into it. Then it ran up to 17. Felt kind of dumb. Then I realized, it's Rivian. They really don't have any gross profit margins at the end of the day. It's tough to justify the long-term thesis. I think as a trade, maybe it makes sense. Long-term thesis is hard. Did they dilute shareholders today? What did they... Does anyone know that? I see zero news outside of the stocks sold off today. It's almost like the Volkswagen deal is not happening anymore for Rivian, which would be bad. That would be very bad. Insider selling. Is that what's going on with Rivian? Insider selling? Really? That's the reason? By the way, a lot of insiders are selling. It's not just CARP. We talked about that in the morning, but there are plenty of insiders cashing out. So Whether it's Zucks or Bezos or Jensen, all these guys are taking some profits. SoFi CTO Jeremy Rischel sold like 70,000 shares today. So we are seeing more people start to sell off. See, no one has the update. Oh, does anyone have an update on why Rivian's down? It doesn't seem like anyone. Volkswagen is in trouble. There's a crisis going on in Germany, and that's affecting Rivian. Well, so if the company is actually in trouble, then that could pull off tear up the $5 billion deal. However, I thought that deal was already happening. I thought Rivian already had the money in the bank. At least that's how it was being priced. If that money never went to Rivian because it was based on certain milestones or whatever it vested over time, then yeah, that could be a reason why they're down. The only reason Rivian went up that day is because you're basically giving them more cash on the balance sheet, and Rivian's already trading at basically cash. So if you have $5 billion of cash, theoretically you have like $3-4 added to the share price. And that's why Rivian exploded up 50% 2 months ago. But if that cash is not there, then yeah, this thing is going to come back down. Rivian CEO sells 84,000 shares. Is all I see. Yeah, I don't know if that's enough to do it. I don't know if that's enough to do it. I told my brother to buy Tesla and Amazon in the 2023 cash. He bought Rivian instead. Dude, that's gotta suck. That's gotta suck. That situation, you don't even want to rub it in someone's face, dude. You don't even want to go up to them and be like, so, because like you just know like they're struggling with that one, dude. Tesla or Amazon, there's so many better ones that could have done better than Rivian. Rivian, dude, I remember when it went public in 2021 as well. It was $150 a share. It was just insane the way it was turning out. But yeah, look, they don't have good gross margins, and they've been unprofitable for years. Unless that changes, hard to see the growth thesis for Rivian. Okay, let's get an update on a bunch of different headlines we've got going on. Let's first look at some analysis on rate cuts and see what's happening there. There's a couple of headlines today that I thought were really interesting over the past few hours. Again, the MicroStrategy one, you guys saw that. Oh, here's one. Microsoft and nuclear plant owner Constellation have agreed to restart the closed 3 Mile Island by 2028 to power its data centers, per the New York Times. So you're getting a lot more data center demand for energy companies partnering with the hyperscalers, and that seems like that's only going to keep increasing over the next few years. Rocket Lab as well, really good day. So let's get an update on rate cuts, and then we'll go deeper into Rocket Lab and a couple other headlines, and then we'll keep going from there.
Talk of the tape. Slow down or melt up? That is the question following the Fed's first rate cut in years. Let's ask Dan Greenhouse, Solus Alternative Asset Management's chief strategist, with me here at Post 9. What was this? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Welcome back.
Game changer? The fact that it was 50?
I don't think it was a game changer per se. I know there was a debate on the halftime show about whether it was a surprise or not. I think most people in my seat who look at things from a macro standpoint were probably caught off guard. And that's because going into the quiet period, we'd all expected 25 basis points. And then the Federal Reserve has now decided to alter how we think about things, which is to say now during the quiet period, you can change market expectations by leaking to newspapers, something that up until this point, we really haven't had to deal with very much.
50 was the right number, according to Waller, who was with Leisman exclusively earlier today. Was the right number. As Chair Powell said, we're at a point where the economy is strong, inflation's coming down, and we want to keep it that way. So we felt 50 was the right policy action to do. So if they're cutting while the economy is still strong, it's a bit of an insurance cut. What does that mean for stocks then going forward?
Well, just to start with, when we last spoke, when you were out west, one of the arguments I made is that I could easily make the case for 25 basis points, which was my assumed outcome. I could easily make the case for 50 basis points. And I think the case that Jay Powell made was the case that all of us who said, well, if you had to cut 50, this is the case you would make. That's the case Jay Powell made. The economy's still doing well, but I implore everybody who's watching at home and for the discussions we have on the network, this isn't about the economy weakening in any meaningful way. There's obviously some weakness in the labor market. It's about the Fed just getting back on sides with where real rates and nominal rates should be, considering what the progress they've made on the year-over-year inflation rate. It's really not much more complicated than that.
Okay, so then why is it any more complicated than don't fight the Fed?
Oh, well, listen, I'll repeat a long-held position of mine on the show, going back to September 23, when the Federal Reserve introduced for the first time their 2026 estimates. That was the first time that they said that inflation was not going to get back to target until 2026. So what the Fed said then, again, this was back in late 23, we're not willing to do what everyone else tells us is necessary in order to bring the unemployment rate back to target and the inflation rate back to target more quickly. We're not willing to do that. We're going to wait until 2026 for inflation to normalize. That, to me, was and remains an incredibly bullish development. The Fed's saying, I'm not going to crack this. I know people keep telling me they want us to crack it, but I'm not going to. So to answer your question, what does it mean for risk assets? For investors at home, this is really very simple. The economy continues to do well. Obviously, it's decelerating to some degree, although from an elevated level in the back half of last year. Interest rates are beginning to come down, the 2-year and the 10-year, both. The yield curve is now steepening. The dollar has sold off a bit. All of this is, all else equal, generally speaking, risk asset positive.
Which is why Brian Belsky raised his price target.
That's right.
He said to 6,100.
That's right. And
assuming that.
I think a lot of that makes sense. The points he ran through about what it means at the end of the day for risk assets is real. And we're seeing it in Bitcoin, dude. Usually you would see Bitcoin get a pump like this and then it just goes away. And obviously with the Saylor buy, that was some big news today. But Bitcoin's holding on nicely into that 62,000 range. Now, if it can keep holding on to this into the election, and then, if Trump loses, we're going to see if that really has an impact on Bitcoin. But I think Q4 is ramping up for the liquidity event to be massive. There is no reason we're not going to get another 50 basis points of cuts unless inflation reaccelerates. I don't think that's going to happen. If I'm wrong on that, then I'm wrong. But if that doesn't happen, we're getting another 50 bips. If we're getting another 50 bips, and most people think we're getting 75 by the end of the year, that is very bullish for Bitcoin. That is very bullish for risk assets. That is very bullish for money that is going to be leaving high yield savings accounts and going back into the economy, assuming we don't have unemployment ramp up and that then collapsing earnings growth for companies. If we avoid that, this is going to be a really nice bull market towards the end of the year. And the Fed did their job by getting those 50 basis points to begin the cuts. So we saw CEG, Constellation Energy Group. They were up 22% on the day. Again, energy, demand for energy via AI, it's going to matter more and more and more. This was a Microsoft headline about the potential to start up more data centers with CEG. So that's a company. $79 billion market cap, price of sales of 3, PE of 32. Looks like the street's excited about this. 312 million shares outstanding. And then you had Oklo, which we talked about a little bit today. They're up 27% because of rumors of them working with Amazon to start off a nuclear fission component to building out energy infrastructure for data centers. So you've got the energy plays starting to get a bid. The fact that both of these energy companies, which on a random Friday are up 20% each. I mean, that's interesting, dude. You've got some risk that's entering back into the markets. Those companies do not need to go up 20% on a random Friday just because of like an energy headline, but they're doing that because there is some liquidity that is starting to free up and take on more risk going into these different energy plays. Here is Ed Yardeni about the melt up today as well and why he thinks S&P could hit 6,000 this year.
You've been talking about the idea of a potential melt up. Did the Fed just initiate that?
I think they did. I don't think that 50 basis points was really necessary for the point of view of the economy. The economy is growing about 3% on a year-over-year basis. Now it could grow at a faster pace as a result. But I think the result is going to be productivity gains that are more than we've had of late. And if that's the case, it'll show up in earnings. So from an earnings standpoint, I think we're okay. It's not irrational exuberance. But the valuation multiple stretched. It's up around 21 right now on a forward PE basis for the S&P 500. The Buffett ratio is 2.8, which is near record highs. So I would have preferred to see the market kind of go sideways for a while, but the market never listens to me, and it just keeps going up.
I mean, how much do you think it can go up now?
Well, the way I forecast is I have a base case and then one or two alternative scenarios. And in my base case, which is that the market follows earnings and valuations don't get too much stretched from here, I would have the market going to 5,800. We're almost there. I mean, we could be there by next week sometime. But I think in a melt-up scenario, which I just raised the odds from 20% to 30%, sort of a 1990s deja vu all over again scenario, I think we could see over 6,000. And then maybe that'll set us up for a correction early next year. I don't think it'll be a bear market because I don't think we're going to have a recession.
6,000 would be wild on the S&P. I don't think that's crazy this year. Would that mean valuations continue to get stretched? Sure, but that would require Q4 guidance from Amazon, Meta, etc., to be good. And if that's good and the market's ready to melt up and you get 75 bips of cuts, we might end up having that bull market. We got some breaking news, folks. The SEC is seeking sanctions against Elon Musk in its Twitter probe. That is interesting. They're going after him on Twitter. What exactly are they mad about on Twitter? Is it how he bought Twitter, or is it something that he said about Tesla? There has to be something here that they care about. I'll see if I can get some coverage on that in a little bit. And then we also have that Intel news. So here's what I want to do. I want to get some Intel updates. Let's get a little bit of analysis there and kind of see what people have to say about that. And then we'll see this Twitter stuff and see what's happening. No one has any thoughts on Lucid joining the Rivian bag holders. My thoughts on Lucid are that Lucid is just fucking dumb, dude. It's like I know it might look attractive at like $2 or $3 and be like, oh, I can own 100 shares for $200, but there's nothing interesting about this. Yeah, $3.49. The Saudis have pumped this thing up with so much money to try to make an argument that it's worth something. The cars are actually really nice. It's just, this is not like a serious EV company that I think is going to compete with Tesla. So I would, I'd rather buy one share of Tesla than 200 shares of Lucid. Okay, let's get some updates on the Intel stuff. I'll try to find more stuff with the SEC and Elon, and then we'll keep going from there.
Insights and strategy. Pat, we were just on the phone about this. You're the first guy I called to see what you think. I mean, maybe a deal could get done here, but Intel is such a big domestic manufacturer, particularly of chips right now. It's not like just anybody would be allowed to come in and buy it.
Yeah, John, there's so many ways to look at this in the last 30 minutes, right? You have to ask, so first of all, why does this come out now? When you have board of directors, investors, you get churn like this. You get strategic options on the table. And then you have to say, hey, is it real or fake? Is it created to just disrupt Intel? What's the synergy between the companies? What would the regulator say? And would it be a full sale or would it be carve it up? I'm not going to scenario plan it right now, but when you lay up Intel next to Qualcomm, right, you've got Intel that's big in data centers, PCs, big fab manufacturing capabilities, small in auto, no smartphones, and relatively large in what I'll call the industrial edge. Then you've got Qualcomm, big in smartphones, big in connectivity IP, big in auto, no foundry. They're paying TSMC all the margin to make it, small in data center, smaller in industrial edge. So I see synergies in this when you look at the whole, the two companies completely coming together.
How about motive, though?
I mean, yeah, there is an argument. The question's going to be, is that going to be approved by Lena Khan and the overall FTC? Okay, this is the SEC news we have on Elon. So this came out literally a minute ago. U.S. SEC intends to seek sanctions against Elon Musk in Twitter probe. All right, so the U.S. SEC said on Friday it intends to seek sanctions against Elon Musk after he failed to appear for court order testimony for the regulator's probe into his $44 billion takeover of Twitter. In a court filing, the SEC said the sanctions motion would seek an order to show cause for why Musk should not be held in civil contempt for waiting until just 3 hours before the scheduled September 10th testimony to advise he would not appear. So apparently he was supposed to give a testimony to them on September 10th, and he bailed last minute. He left them at the altar. Musk, whose businesses include Tesla and SpaceX, went to Florida's Cape Canaveral that day to oversee this launch of SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission. Okay, so Elon went to go make sure the future of humanity in outer space was on the right trajectory versus testifying about why he bought Twitter. I think that's more important. The SEC apparently doesn't think that's the case. Lawyers for Musk called sanctions drastic and unnecessary, saying his testimony has already been rescheduled for October 3rd. Wait, what? It's already rescheduled? This is so dumb. If they rescheduled it a month later because he had to go to see the launch of a mission of SpaceX, which was very important, and the SEC is sanctioning him now because he had to reschedule because he was kind of busy. This has got to be a joke, dude. This has got to be a joke. It's got to be a little bit of a joke. This doesn't make that much sense. This does not make that much sense. We'll see if we can get more information on that, but that seems a bit aggressive. Amit say Carnival again. What, did I say Carnival wrong? Carnival? What do you what? It's Carnival. Like what? Yeah, that's how you say Carnival, dude. It's there's no way you can get upset about it. It's Carnival. Like okay, some people may say Carnival, but it's Carnival too. That's not a crazy thing in the world. That's not a horrible way to say Carnival. Okay, so the Palantir volume thing makes no sense either. It's saying Palantir traded volume just spiked to about 450 million. I don't know if that's true. I know we got a spike of 15 million in the last 15 minutes, but we didn't have volume of 450 million shares, unless after hours the SEC, not the SEC, the SEC, the S&P rebalanced and they bought and sold 400 million shares, but that doesn't make any sense. So I feel like that's a glitch on the brokerages, but also that might be the case. And that's just what happens when you get rebalanced. There's hundreds of millions of shares that get traded back and forth, but it didn't affect the stock outside of the 1% pump we got in the last 15 minutes. After hours down a little bit. And so it's not having that much of an effect. It is weird. I don't know if the Palantir volume is real. I don't know if it's that real, to be honest. Do you guys think it's real? Do you think Palantir had 450 million shares traded today? On average, they have 80 million. On average, they have, about 80 million. So that doesn't make sense to me, the volume being 450 million. Unless on an S&P rebalance, you tend to get that much of a volume spike on the shares. 36.97 right now after hours. Average volume is 52 million. I don't know if it was 10x the average volume. But it closed above 37, which was good to see. Getting rebalanced into numerous funds, sure. Sean says, think all ETFs need to buy. So here's the question. If the volume was 50 million until the last 5 minutes, and then we got 400 million of volume, maybe that's where we got the 1% push. But it's interesting, 400 million shares of volume buying and selling back and forth to only go up 1%. I mean, I don't know. I feel like when you have that much more volume, either to the downside or the upside, it's a bit more volatile. The math ain't mathing on that. John says mine says 91 million. That seems more reasonable. 91 million seems way more reasonable than Webull saying 449. What's Robinhood saying? Robinhood is saying the volume today was 449 million. Look at Robinhood. Robinhood saying 449 million. That's weird. That's very weird. Institutional buying is at close oftentimes. All right, so maybe we did have that much volume, but we did close above 37, which is not the worst thing in the world. It won't pump because there's preset limits at set pricing. Okay, that's also fair. That also makes a lot of sense. And a lot of those, I'm assuming they had those preset limits for a while, given they knew that today, September 20th, they would need to buy. Well, I didn't know if we would have something exciting at Palantir getting into the S&P 500 because obviously it's already had its big pump over the past week, but we did get a $37 close towards the end of the day. I didn't really know what would happen when we had the rebalance, and it seems like up 1% right at the close. That was based on all that volume coming in, and it led to a $37 close for Palantir. Thinkorswim also says 449 million. Yeah, Robinhood, Webull, and Thinkorswim all saying 449 million. Schwab saying 449 million. Okay, maybe it was 449 million. Maybe it was. All right, cool. That's what we got on Palantir and the Elon Musk news as well. Let's see what else we have going on. I wanted to talk about iPhone and Nike. Well, first of all, did you buy the iPhone today? Did anyone pre-order it? Did anyone pre-order, or not pre-order, but go out and buy 16? I did not do that, but very curious to see if anyone else did. Let's get a little bit of an update on Apple and what's going on. The stock did close down today, but it was up nicely for the week. So let's get an update on Apple and then see what's going on from there.
Tony, great to have you back. Haven't seen you on air in a bit. I want to ask you about the sort of math possibilities behind a Qualcomm Intel matchup. But let's start. Start on AI. What's special one of the things that's special to me about your career is the way
have existed. There was Siri before, there was Alexa, there was, the different Hello Google. Those things have been out for over, 8 years or so now, 10 years. And so now what you're going to see is a whole new level of capabilities that was always imagined, but never been able to deliver until now. And we're just about there. Obviously, Apple hasn't been shipping those features yet. They're going to, they say, sometime next year, early next year. But there is the promise. And you can see if you actually create products around AI and chatbots, you can actually do some really novel and innovative things. And those buttons are going to be very powerful.
I realize that the actual software for Apple Intelligence isn't going to push out till a little bit later this year. I was in Manhattan. I walked past the Apple Fifth Avenue store earlier today. I saw some of the lines. People are excited about the new iPhone 16, it would seem, on day one. But what do you think it's going to take for consumers to really understand, get excited, and wrap their arms around all of these capabilities as they do push out to their phones?
Well, great question. How it always happens is that you're going to have a trusted friend, that person in your family or in your community who you always go to and you say, hey, what do you think about this? And those tastemakers, those influencers, those are the ones who are going to really get you, going when they can show you it right on their phone and go, check this out. This is so cool. That's the thing that's going to spread the waves. We're going to see lots of ads. We're going to see a lot of things. But when you see people around you that you trust using it and using it for everyday things, that's when that fire is going to light and it's going to spread. So
the problem is none of us know what those everyday things are yet. And maybe that's just because it takes time, but I think no one has a clue what the Apple Intelligence actually will be used for yet.
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen earlier next year because Apple has really wrapped the AI technology, chatbot technology, and other technologies, AI diffusion models and things, in something that's really a product. A lot of things like ChatGPT and the other things, they're not products. They're general technologies, but not wrapped as a product. Apple has done a really good job of messaging that they're going to have it as such. And so let's see what happens early next year.
Okay. So what do you think the lessons learned have been for Apple as it does push out the software through its new iPhones? When you think about Huawei and what we're seeing with that rollout in China right now with its newest devices, and you think about the lead that Google-enabled devices have as well.
Well, look, Apple has an incredible market power. They have a consumer base that keeps coming back and back and back year after year. I don't think you're going to see a real dramatic change in that.
Wait, Jeremy sold Palantir? Did he actually? It's just clickbait. No, it's just clickbait. Damn it, dude. This every time. I mean, he has a $7 average. It would be interesting to see if he got out of it. That wouldn't sound like what he would do, but okay, makes sense. It was clickbait.
As long as Apple is able to deliver as they say they can, and I believe they can, and the others will deliver. So I think it's still it's the same arms race that we've had for the last, 15 years in smartphones. And so it's just going to continue. But I don't think anyone has any more advantage than anyone else. And so, and Apple's always really good at making products out of technology. So let's see what happens. But I don't think there's going to be a huge market shift because people who are already in each of the platforms are going to stay that way.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about suppliers, which you have dealt with quite a bit in your career. Qualcomm, Intel, reports out, including from our own CNBC reporting, that Qualcomm has approached Intel about a possible transaction. Back in the early days of iPhone, if I recall, there was talk about using an Intel chip in it. That turned out not to be the direction. It turned out to be ARM chips. Qualcomm, over time, became the big player in ARM chips with Snapdragon. What do you think of the possibility of these two companies getting together?
Well, there's a huge antitrust and what have you there, but it makes a lot of sense that Intel needs to find a new direction in product. Intel hasn't been a product company for a long time. It was a manufacturing company, and now it has stumbled year after year in the manufacturing domain. So it does need to go to product. So Cristiano at Qualcomm is making a bold move if that is really exactly the case. And bringing in those products, both on the server side and the PC side into Qualcomm would be tremendous. The albatross really is the manufacturing, and it costs a lot to build and to maintain and to fill those fabs, more importantly. And so I don't know whether they're going to take a part or they're going to take the whole thing, because IDF, Intel Foundries, was going to spin out anyways. So I think it could be a really strong bet and could help Intel, because we do need that American technology to continue as x86, and it could be something really big for Qualcomm if they can complete such a transaction.
I agree. It would be good for American manufacturing. It could be good for America in general in terms of chips. But will that actually happen? I don't know. Wall Street Journal reported it. It's a big story, man. If Intel gets bought out after what they dealt with this year, I just don't know how much Qualcomm's going to pay on that. That's a lot to be able to pay. I just got some pictures here of Palantir after hours volume. Take a look at that. It looks like it definitely was 450 million shares traded. You've got tons and tons and tons of buying right there after hours, or right into the close at 4 p.m. Tons and tons and tons of buying. These are a lot. 3 million shares, 4 million shares, 546,000. Those have to be institutional investors getting in right at those levels on the rebalance. So now it is going to be up to the market to figure out, hey, Palantir at $37 in the S&P 500, does it get to keep that valuation? Are there enough catalysts to keep it going forward? Or will that valuation have to take a little bit of a hit? And I don't think there's been any studies done on companies that have been included into the S&P 500 and their volatility decreasing. In fact, I think it's the opposite, because institutions are as emotional as retail investors sometimes. And so if there's a bad headline that comes out, if there's a government contract they don't win, or a bad earnings miss, or whatever it is, I think it'll be sold off just like any other stock. So it seems like there's a lot more buying pressure. We saw the pump from $29.50 on September, September 5th? Because September 6th was the run up. 237, hell of a gain, obviously, from 16 to 37 this whole year. And now it's just going to be, can they keep executing to maintain that momentum? And if they can, then we might be able to keep the gains. Sam says, I swung Palantir puts into today and then bought more shares this morning after I sold. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Yeah, apparently Jeremy did not sell. He used it as clickbait to talk about carp selling. So there you go. Guess my Palantir sell at 37 was horrible. We're going to see. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I mean, really, but again, remember, the mentality cannot be, oh my God, I sold at 37. It's going up higher. Or, oh my God, I bought at 37. It's going lower. Like with this, unless you're trading it, it is really a question of what you think of it for the long term. It was a good podcast with Farzad. It'll be out on his channel tomorrow, but he broke down a lot of other ways he thinks Palantir can get to $1 trillion. He's thinking of buying Palantir. I think the only stock he owns is Tesla. And so he's really coming around to initiating a position in Palantir as well. And it was a good conversation from his perspective on how he thinks the momentum could propel forward, not only AI in the enterprise, but also the vast amount of use cases that Palantir has. And again, look, at the end of the day, I know the valuation stretched. I've been saying the valuation stretched for a while, but it's just a fun story, bro. It's just a fun story. It's a fun community. People like being part of it. We can all get humbled if the stock falls 30, 40% or whatever. That is very possible. But people want to be part of the story, be part of the community. That's why I think Dumb Money started talking about it, because they're seeing the momentum, they're seeing the excitement, and they're seeing the potential. We did have a tweet by Chris Camillo today. I thought it was a fun tweet. I think he's been in Palantir since the low 20s, so it's not like he's been buying up here, but they started talking about it publicly here. He said, I'm not afraid of Palantir's high PE, not even a little. And it makes sense. I mean, look, this is a guy who's made a lot of money. I think his story is 20,000 to 20 million just by doing social arbitrage trading. And they were him and his team were really early on Celsius. They saw the whole Celsius thing happening before it happened, and now they're out of it. But with an investor like him, he doesn't give a shit about conventional metrics. He cares about the story. That's all he cares about. And as long as the story is in the right direction, that's where he makes his investments for. Okay, let's get another update on rate cuts from Goldman Sachs and why they thought 50 bips was a bit of a hedge towards the economy, and get their perspective as well.
All three major averages are on pace for weekly gains after yesterday's post-Fed rally. My next guest says now's the time to bet on stocks and use volatility as an entry point. Joining me now, Post 9 once again, Sarah Nace-Terrajano of Goldman Sachs. Nice to see you.
Great to be here.
So how do you characterize what happened this week for the market, that it was 50 and not 25? Does that change the way you would have seen things today?
I think it changes it a little bit. I think the Fed has done a great job. They were very focused on inflation. They got inflation under control into the 2% range. High 2s, 2.9 is where we're trending right now. And now they're focused on unemployment. And I think it's helpful to the equity markets, clearly, to have rates lower. I really think that it was a bit of a hedge as well, right? We're not having another meeting until November.
Like insurance.
We've got insurance, 7 weeks. And I think, you would expect equity markets to rise on the back of a 50 basis point rate cut.
So you think this was more of a gift than a warning, a worry point? That's something they had to do 50 because they're more worried about the labor market and then the economy falling.
Look, I think a little bit of both. I think they're a little worried about the labor market, but I do think I see it more of a hedge than a trend that we're going to see all these, 50 basis point cuts going forward. I think they've given themselves a really nice hedge for the next 7 weeks, that if the data comes in worse than expected, we have enough cushion to really be able to, handle that.
What about areas of the market? As we spent the first 20 minutes debating kind of where you want to be and whether that's become a game changer too as a result of the 50. How do you see that?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll just take a step back. When we think about advising, high net worth clients and family office, what is the goal? The goal is to protect their money and grow their money to outpace inflation. That's how you protect purchasing power. What does that better than anything? U.S. equities. You go back and you look from 1926 at rolling 20-year periods. U.S. equities have outperformed inflation 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. Now, what U.S. equities, I think, is the question that you're asking. And I would say we've been talking about broadening for a while. It's hard to ignore, the mega cap tech outperformance. We wouldn't bet against it. I think it makes sense to have those exposures in a portfolio, particularly because most of our clients have tremendous gains there. And we've talked about the tax consequences of taking those gains. Mm-hmm. But, 11 of the sectors of the S&P are up year to date. The broadening is happening. And now it's like, where do you look to add extra exposure? We're starting to talk a lot about mid-cap. And, I think the thing that's interesting about mid-cap is from sort of a price perspective, they trade at, 15 times next 12 months versus the S&P at, 22 plus. And then you add to that, that they are profitable companies for the most part. 90% of them, mm-hmm. Have positive net income. And, we have positive earning estimates too. So we see a CAGR of 11% over the next 2 years versus the S&P at 7.
What about your clients?
So, look, I think that's a fair point. Ultimately, her job is to preserve purchasing power. And to do that, you need to outbeat inflation. And to do that, you need to bet on U.S. equities. I think mid caps is fair. Small caps. The reason why all these fund managers keep mentioning mid caps is because they don't have the guts to take on small caps like Tom Lee. That's why Tom Lee is who he is, because he finds shit that's really hard to bet on and bets on it. And they also don't want to underperform with large cap tech, because buying Google right here, buying Meta right here, it's just going to be hard for those companies to, not that their stocks won't perform well, but again, they've had such a great year that if you're entering now, it's just like there's a lot of more unknowns, right? Especially if you want to get a return that beats the S&P 500 at that point. The Qs or the S&P is not the worst bet either. So they're looking for mid caps, and rate cuts should be bullish for those mid caps, but I think they're gonna have to be super selective on which mid caps actually create more momentum. And you guys in the chat are very interesting. You're very interesting. Bank of Japan, they held their interest rate policy, no change. So this was expected. We knew that whoever's running the government right now, because I really don't know who's running the government, they probably gave a call to Bank of Japan and they said, hey guys, you guys know what to do. We do have a little bit of a weakening in the yen. It was at 140 on Monday. Now it's at 143. Again, we want the yen to go up because that means the dollar is strengthened. The yen is weakened. That makes the yen carry trade, the short yen, long U.S. equities trade more feasible. If the yen goes up, meaning the dollar goes down against the yen, which would mean there's less yen available per dollar. So that 143 going down to 140 would be bad. 143 going to 146 would be very good. Then that means that people might get caught up in that yen carry trade again. And it also means that the Bank of Japan might be thinking more seriously about a rate hike. Now, from what I'm reading right here, they didn't do a hike, but they are potentially thinking, given their CPI was at the highest level in the past 15 months at 2.8%. So inflation is going up, which is good for Japan. They want inflation because they've had deflation for so long. Their real interest rates are still quite negative. Even if their current interest rates are at 0.25%, like the actual real interest rates are negative, which is good because you want more innovation in Japan and more people taking risks. But if they do hike, that could be very bad for the Santa Claus rally. If we get it, I think maybe we melt up so much the market doesn't care. But if they signal before or after the election in that time around wanting to hike, that wouldn't be the best thing in the world because we saw what happened last time. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But we might see if that potentially is a risk we have to deal with later this year as well. What else do we have? Beneficial says, I'm putting all my remaining cash into Google next week. I don't hate that, especially if you're long-term bullish on Google. I do not hate Google at these levels. We talked about the 20-year deal Microsoft signed with, wow, it's 20 years. I didn't know it was 20 years. I thought it was 3 years. Damn. That's a lot, dude. 20 years with CEG. That stock year to date. Let me know if anyone owned this stock. Wow, dude. The stock is up 120% this year. Holy crap. That means even before today, it was up 80%. Constellation Energy Group. Wow. That means the stock was worth $35 billion before this year. Huh. Now at a market cap of around $80 billion. It's not too bad, dude. That's a hell of a year. Past month, 33%. Past 5 days, 30% as of today. Past 5 years, 466%. Past 1 year, 131%. And they went IPO in 2022. Oh, wow. This one has been a newcomer into the market. Energy and cybersecurity, it does not look like these guys are going away. It does not look like these guys are going away at all. Oh, Duolingo. Yeah, this one was also an interesting one. Did they have earnings recently? I'm pretty sure they did. Duolingo's up 25% year to date. Past month, it's up 31%. I don't know if any news came out about them, but I think something came out that showed that they increased a metric that the street really cared about, or they had some partnership. But Duolingo's always been interesting. It's one of those things where if you believe the future of language learning is going to be monopolized within one or two winners, which, to be honest, Google is a winner there because I think people go to YouTube to like search for stuff when they're trying to learn a language. But Duolingo is like that all-in-one encompassing platform. I'm sure plenty of you even use it in the chat that are not gonna, that if you really care about learning Spanish, like you're gonna take Duolingo seriously, and you might even pay for it every month, and that'll help the revenues. Or you watch some ads, and that helps them as well. Funnily enough, I studied Spanish for like 6 years, dude. Still don't know how to speak Spanish. It was in high school. The thing is, I don't want to blame my Spanish teachers, but like in Spanish class, to be honest, we would just goof around, bro. Like there was like, it was not a serious Spanish class. Like we didn't actually like pay attention in middle school and in high school. Like Spanish for me was just like a class where I sit back and I chill. And I just never took it seriously, and I never practiced. I never cared. I was on the debate team, dude. I was so obsessed with like being good at debate and speaking English in debate and like being effective at English itself that I never took Spanish seriously. I kind of regret it. I also kind of don't care, but it would be nice to be able to speak Spanish or French. I can speak Hindi, but like, that's not as universal as Spanish. But I'm not the best at learning new languages. I mean, you see me struggle with certain words in the English language. So Spanish is not the easiest. Yeah, Lunar had a really good day as well. I mean, so the thing about Lunar, I was looking at their chart today. This one, they got a $5 billion contract from NASA yesterday, and that's why they pumped a lot. The problem with Lunar is that I think a lot of people kind of, it already pumped this year. So if you look at the year to date, so it had a pump from January to February, went from $2 to basically $11, right? So nice 5x right there. And then it came all the way back down and it started chilling out. Bottomed here around 330. Then it gets the deal yesterday or on Tuesday, and it pumps up here back to $9. So if you bought it at the top in February, you've been bag holding unless you've DCA'd and reduced your average. And I think a lot of people just didn't see the potential right here. They didn't care too much. And then it pops. And so you're breaking even on those shares. But if you started loading up around here, you're up about 3x. So it's up 287% year to date. Now, this thing went public a while ago. They went public in 2023. They popped to 40, and then they went down as interest rates continued to get raised. Silicon Valley Bank collapse, all that stuff. So I think for this one, timing was everything. Obviously, there had to be a thesis. You had to understand that thesis really well. But being in at the right time was the most important thing for Lunar as well. In terms of Lunar's fundamentals, I want to pull up because they're obviously not profitable. 1.1 billion market cap, so basically qualified as a small cap. Price of sales of 3. And yeah, they're not profitable. Yeah, this was pure potential. This is a startup that's public. Same thing with Oklo. Same thing with Enovix. By the way, where's Enovix? Enovix kind of stuck in it. Enovix has had a horrible year. I mean, Enovix, same. If you look at the chart, same thing right here with Enovix. It pumped early in the year, and a lot of people felt really good from 5 to 18. That's basically a 4x right there, or a 3.5x. And then slowly it came down. Raj Talluri deleted his Twitter account. People said, what's going on? He sold some shares. And now you're kind of stuck here. But again, with these companies, and it's the same thing that happened with Lunar until they got a contract. So if Enovix gets a Samsung contract or an Apple contract tomorrow, this thing probably pumps 30, 40% just like Lunar. But you've got to be so patient just waiting in these names. Amidst wardrobes now Palantir only. I see you guys like the turtleneck, dude. I think I got some other colors of these turtlenecks, dude. Maybe we got to bust out the turtlenecks. And that's going to be the swag. He filed to sell and then removed the filing. Yeah, I don't know what drama happened with Enovix and with Raj Talluri, but people were not happy. Enovix is a really big retail community, by the way. If you go on Twitter, there's a lot of people that they think it's the next Enphase. And they think Enphase went from $3 to $300. So a lot of and TJ Rogers is also, so there's a lot of stories that are similar to it. I know someone who has a lot of shares in it. I know someone who got really early on Enphase. He made like $100 million on it. And then Enovix was his next bet. I don't know how many shares he has, but he has a lot. And he's betting on the TJ Rogers effect to kind of be the same here. Okay, let's get a couple updates on PayPal and Nike and see what some people have to say. So let's get Josh Brown's perspective on those two and then keep going from there.
Because Mizuho today reiterates their outperform buy with Prime time. They say it's now available at buy with Prime and check out Amazon. Josh was highlighting this the other day. You want to talk about this?
Look, I think the story here is that Alex Chris, the new CEO, is very quietly making really big strategic deals behind the scenes. I do expect something with the near field communication chip that Apple is now opening up. I think you're going to have Pay with Venmo be a viable option at retailers all over America. And I think what you're seeing here with some of these things with Amazon and Shopify, also we didn't talk about in the last week, these are just really smart ways for PayPal to reassert itself as one of the easiest ways to do e-commerce. And the market likes it. So this stock remains a top-tier performer. It's making new 52-week highs. Almost nobody is paying attention to it. It's a little bit beneath the radar. It's not a mega cap tech. It's not a fast-growing company. It's definitely a value stock, but the trend is up. So I'm going to stick with it.
Okay, and let's get his take on Nike as well here.
I have to agree with what everyone said on the desk. To Steve's point, they're still selling Dunks Air Force Ones for about $110 a piece. That's basically a staple at this point. It's not in fashion. It's not out of fashion. It's just like an evergreen thing that they can do. The Jordans in the secondary market are not selling for what they were selling, which has like a ripple effect. And so the new Jordans are less in demand. And then what comes next? It's unclear. They really haven't innovated a whole hell of a lot. Even their best signed athletes are all aging out. Like, do kids want to buy LeBrons right now? Not really. What about Kevin Durant? Is anybody lining up for the new Durant drop, like under the age of 12? I don't think so. So it's a tough time for them. You've got this leadership transition. I don't think the guy's in any rush to make changes. So next quarter is not going to be the turnaround quarter. And Jenny nailed it. Why would I pay 25 times forward earnings for a turnaround story? Nobody does that. So it's kind of in a no man's land. And that's why the rally already fizzled out. Everybody sees the same thing.
All right.
I kind of agree on both those topics. On PayPal, I mean, I think PayPal has been undervalued all year, and the market's finally starting to see some of the potential. The buybacks are going to be incredible. PayPal's fair value is closer to $95. Some people say it's a dinosaur. I don't think it's a dinosaur. And so I think PayPal is going to be fine. It's just one of those stories where the opportunity cost of holding it has been tough, given everything else has done well. But if you really just want something safe for the long term, the undervaluation on PayPal was very real. And then in terms of Nike, that's also a hell of a point. Why would you pay 25 times earnings on not Meta or Google, which, by the way, Google is cheaper than Nike at 21, but on Nike, like, yeah, the forward PE on Nike is 27. The forward PE on Google is 21. I mean, it's just like, and ironically, as I say this, Bill Ackman sold Google for Nike. And so I guess he sees something deeper here, but on a turnaround play, if LeBron and Kevin Durant don't matter that much, by the way, those guys are about to retire. They're not like the premier NBA superstars that they were in the past. You would need like new, fresh talent to get people excited, or new products. It is going to be a little harder to revitalize that brand. So I think both of those points are fair. All right. I think that's it, guys, on the market close. Clark ones, I'd invest in those. Yes, dude. I don't understand why Caitlin Clark gets the hate that she gets. Like, she's phenomenal. She's great. She's like making people care about the WNBA. And like, for some reason, people shit on her. Like, it's like, I really don't watch sports anymore, but like when I did watch sports, I didn't really watch the WNBA. And that's not because I'm sexist. That's just because, hey, it just wasn't as interesting as the NBA. And so you need characters. Also, what's his name? David Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, he architected Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird in such a like unique way back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to get people to care. At the end of the day, this is all attention. This is all narratives. This is all people that have personalities that are larger than life. And then the sport itself is exciting, but you've got to build up those narratives. The WNBA doesn't have any narratives. And Caitlin Clark is a hell of a narrative. If they market the crap out of that, she could be potentially the Michael Jordan of the WNBA. And that would give a lot more money. So I think that's one thing they should definitely think about a little bit more. Amit only likes men. Damn, I walked into that one. I definitely walked into that one. Dude, to be honest, though, I don't watch sports anymore at all. So I'm not even excited for the new NBA season. I just don't keep up with it too much. But if I do watch sports, usually it's basketball highlights that I want to watch. But yeah, Caitlin Clark, I think she's gonna be amazing, dude. I think she's gonna do very, very well. And the story is the big game in sports. Yep. The story is everything in sports. Even just like politics, obviously it's all about stories, but also finance, right? Like, the reason CNBC likes having Tom Lee on the show is because his narrative that he concocts about the market, or Cathie Wood, which, by the way, has kind of disappeared. Cathie Wood, I've not seen her publicly talk about anything in a while. That is what drives people to care about their ideas, right? So you need these figures that are able to put their takes out there into the world, and then those takes then get disseminated, but that creates the interest that's needed for people to actually tune in to any of those pieces of content. So I would imagine Caitlin Clark will do that as well. Name a Memphis Grizzlies player. So I only know Ja Morant, to be honest. I know Robin did that partnership with them, but yeah, Ja Morant's the only one I know. Honestly, dude, the only teams I really care about are the Lakers and the Knicks. I love the Knicks because I'm not from New York, but adjacent to New York. But I like LeBron. I want to see LeBron win more championships, and so I would like to see the Lakers do well. It's going to be crazy seeing him and his son play together. That has always been weird to me, dude. If I was his son, I would never want to play with my dad because, like, A, the pressure of being on the same team with my dad. B, we all know his son is not that, like, he's not a superstar, right? His son is like a guy who's developing. He wasn't LeBron when he was in high school. So, is he really going to get that much playing time? C, it's just like, I don't want to be under the shadow of my dad, I know there's a different relationship they have, and it'll be cool to see that happen, but I kind of would want to do my own thing. So I guess that'll be interesting. But besides that, I don't know how good the Lakers are actually going to be. RF Andy says, shout out to LA and the airport, flying home to LAX right now. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. What are you doing this weekend? Any movies up for review? You know, that's a good question. I think we'll end it off on this question with the chat as well. What are you guys doing this weekend? Put in the chat. We couldn't get Steve on the show today. Steve is stuck in a bunch of meetings. But he was on the other day. He was on like 2 days ago. And he talked for a good 40 minutes. So he was on a couple days. Oh, he was on the day of the Fed. He was on Wednesday. So we got to get most of his thoughts. But I have to do a lot of packing and like suitcase stuff with my mom because of India coming up in a couple weeks. So that'll be something I do this weekend. And then B, Steve really wants me to watch Entourage. So maybe I give that a real shot this weekend and I try to detach from the stock market. I feel like if there was any weekend to detach from the stock market, it would be this weekend. And the reason for that is because the past month has been anxiety based on this yen carry trade nuking our portfolios, then all of it coming back, then all of it basically disappearing on September 6th, then all of it coming back the week after September 6th. And then this week was the most anxious week I've had in the stock market all year. Is it going to be 25 or 50? And it became 50. And so I think if there was any week to just like chill out and not worry about the markets, even though I'm probably still going to be doing research and stuff, it's this weekend. And that's for everybody to just take a little bit of a break and relax. August and September has absolutely been wild. Absolutely been wild. Okay, what are people doing? We got Zocold, B-Day for one of his daughters. Dude, Zocold, I don't know if you caught the stream a couple days ago, but I was wearing my hoodie that you gave me in Vegas. You probably missed that stream, but I found your hoodie, dude. It was like stuck. I cleaned out my closet last week. I found the leather jacket. I found this thing. I found your hoodie. So I was wearing it the other day, and it feels as comfortable as it was before. So that was one that I watched. Rest up before earnings seasons begin. It's not long now. Yeah, dude, it's literally like it's like a sports player, right? You got to rest up before the playoffs. Earnings is just a month away, literally October 20th. So about a month away. BJ is going to do hiking. Okay, very cool. What to expect Monday for Palantir? I have no clue. Honestly, no clue. We're going to see. It'll be the first day after Palantir's, including the S&P 500. So that's going to be very, very important. When AK Media Conference? Well, you know, one thing, it's funny you bring that up. I was talking with someone yesterday who's in Texas, and I think next year the goal should be every month I travel to a new state and have a little bit of a meetup. So instead of like literally instead of having this big conference or something in New York or Vegas and everyone comes, I would love to travel, take one weekend off a month, and just go to different, like in Texas, everyone who's in Houston and Austin can kind of meet up, right? And then if I go to California, everyone who's in the south or the north can kind of meet up. Or if I go to New York, everyone on the East Coast can meet up, or Florida, everyone in the South can meet up. So I think there's a lot of, I think every month next year, we should have one weekend, and I think that'll be really cool. And 20, 30 people can meet up and we can go to a restaurant or whatever else. Doug says going to the LSU versus UCLA football game. Okay. A meet and greet. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. That'll be funny. I'm in New Jersey right now. I'm on the East Coast right now. So anything on the East Coast, even Boston, dude. Although everyone would make fun of me for saying Massachusetts, that would be great as well. Come to Miami. Yeah, I think Miami is a good idea too. You know, I haven't been to Miami in years, dude. Last time I came to Miami, it's a while, bro. I feel like it was 2017. It's been a minute since I've been to Florida since then, but not Miami. So it's been a while for Miami. Any plans on ever visiting Canada? Yes, that's a good idea. I went to Montreal a couple years ago. You know, I've never been to Toronto. I think that should be the goal. Toronto. I've never been to the 6, and that would be fun. That would be fun to go to Toronto. All right, so the main cities I see right here: Boston, Toronto, LA, Miami, and then Austin, probably in Texas. Yeah, there you go. Those are places we should go to. And then we got to do the Europe tour. We got to do the UK tour. But that's just a little bit more complicated to set up. I think it's got to be UK. I think most of you guys are in the UK, even though some of you guys are in Germany and France. But the good thing about the Europe is you can like get on the train and just like take a couple hours and we kind of have trains throughout the states in the United States, but I don't know. Is there a train to go from New York to California? I feel like there is, but In Europe, it's a lot easier. It's go from like Germany to France, I think, by train. The SEC has just approved options for spot Bitcoin ETFs. Whoa. People will now be able to buy calls and sell puts on IBIT. I wonder how long that takes to go into effect. Holy crap. That's big news, dude. That means a lot, but that's perfect for Q4. That is a lot of capital coming in potentially into the Bitcoin ETF derivative markets. The premium on those are going to be pretty wild. And it's a little safer than the leveraged Bitcoin crypto plays because there's not that much leverage inherently built into the asset because it's an underlying asset, even if it's an ETF. B, I think people trust BlackRock more than some of these companies that are offering you leverage plays just because it's BlackRock at the end of the day. Long hood, that's great for Robinhood. That is very good for Robinhood as well. That's not bad. Doug says that is pretty bearish on Bitcoin. Lots of trading on the derivatives, not much on the underlying asset. Yeah, but doesn't that just mean more money going into the ecosystem, right? Like more money on the derivatives. There's a spillover kind of butterfly effect of more people being interested. Also, like for example, my argument here would be if I sold 100 puts on the Bitcoin, the IBIT, the BlackRock ETF, and then I get assigned those puts, I have to buy 10,000 shares of IBIT, right? Because I got assigned, which means technically that's 10,000 shares times whatever, $40. It's going into buying Bitcoin at the end of the day, or BlackRock buying Bitcoin with my money. So I don't know. Maybe there's an argument there that it's good. A lot of people did think, I was in this camp as well for a little bit, thinking that, the Bitcoin ETFs would hurt the trading volumes for Robinhood's crypto business and Coinbase's crypto business. That just never ended up happening. It never ended up happening because people, if you wanted Bitcoin, you would buy Bitcoin. If you want the ETF, you buy the ETF. So it's not like that many people transition from the asset to the ETF itself. Yeah, and Thomas is right here. Someone has to own the shares at the end of each contract as well. Yeah, that's a fair point. IBIT premiums are going to be fat. That's going to be wild, dude. That is going to be wild. All right, pretty cool. The question should be how many minutes into a movie before Mitch shuts it off. Can you guys give me can you actually give me a good movie in the chat to watch this weekend? Like one that you guys know, given my attention span, it'll keep me. Like, don't say the same basic movies everyone's been recommending for 2 months now. Like, say a movie that actually, when I turn it on, you got 5 minutes of my attention. Those 5 minutes are going to turn into 2 hours, and I'm going to actually care. Like a real movie, dude, not the types of movies that everyone's been, not like The Godfather, dude. I'm not watching The Godfather. Like, I'm not, dude, there's no way I can pay attention to that. Ready Player One, Wolf of Wall Street for the 10th time should do it. That's fair. It probably will. Calls and puts on Beto. Yeah, but Beto is not the ETF. Beto is the futures contract of Bitcoin. So that's a little different than the actual ETFs. Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow sounds good. Edge of Tomorrow. What the hell is Edge of Tomorrow? That sounds philosophical. 2014, Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt. 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb, not IMBD. Okay, Edge of Tomorrow. Maybe we'll see that one. George, thank you for being a channel member. He says Heat. Okay, no, I tried Heat. During Christmas. Steve told me to watch Heat. It was on Netflix. I got bored. That's the one with that guy. What's that guy's name? The guy from Al Pacino, right? Al Pacino? Yeah, Al Pacino's in it. Yeah, I got bored of that one quickly, dude. I'm sorry. I got bored of it. It was not that interesting. Inception, I've seen too many times. Risky Business. This is one I've heard of. I haven't watched the but I've heard of it. Stick with Entourage. Yeah, okay. I guess I'm gonna have to give Entourage the time. I asked a couple other people today if they like Entourage, and they were like, "Yep, Entourage is a good show." And I like that it's from 2004 as well. I really love shows from the past. I love shows that are early 2000s. There's no Snapchat. Like, if you actually want to talk to someone, you have to go up to them, not send them a text message. Like, I really like those shows. It brings me back to the old days. Now, I was 7 years old in 2004, but still, I remember those times. If you go rewatch Dawson's Creek, can you actually sit through a whole episode? It would have to be a good episode, but probably not. Probably not. It would have to be a really good episode to sit through it. And remember, the last 3 seasons of Dawson's Creek are kind of trash. So, have you rewatched them? Like, I've watched the first one a couple times with like new people when I've introduced them to the show. The first one is kind of wild, dude. So the problem with the first season of Dawson's Creek is they were in 1998, right? And so you had a teacher. I'm not spoiling anything, but this is just true. You had a teacher who had an inappropriate relationship with a student. Now, in 1998, apparently on TV, you could show that without having that much uproar. Also, it was a lady teacher with a male student. But the show kind of like held on to the storyline for like 5-6 episodes. And I was reading like some critiques of the show after I watched it, and they were like in 1998, no one cared that you were showing this on TV. But now, I mean, you show that type of relationship on TV, there's like no way that you could do that. So that first season is kind of a little cringe to get through as well, because the story you should care about are Dawson, Pacey, and Joey. That's the love triangle. That whole teacher thing is just like, it was just unnecessary. It was weird. It was kind of cringy. And like, but in 1998, they got away with it. But yeah, now you can't do something like that. Doug says the entire show, Dawson's Creek, is kind of trash. I would disagree. I have a fundamental disagreement with that, but that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. The Missing 411. Okay. Repo Men 2010. I feel like I've heard this one as well. Repo Men. This got a 6.3 out of 10. Forrest Whitaker is in this. Jude Law. You know what I should watch, dude? You know what I should watch? I'm going to show you guys what I should watch. I need to watch this because I pissed off Chad the other day when he tweeted a meme from this, and I was like, what movie is that? I know what movie this is, but I just haven't watched it. I think this weekend I'm going to get this one done with, because he was really pissed off when I asked him what movie is this from. I think I need to watch Forrest Gump. Has anyone seen Forrest Gump? Put in the chat if you've seen this thing. 8.8 out of 10. It probably finally deserves the time of day to watch Forrest Gump. I have no idea what this is about. All I know is there's like a phrase called run Forrest or something like that. Run Forrest, run, something like that. But I think it's finally time to watch this one. This one might be time. This one might finally be time to watch. I think we'll do this one. We'll do this one and we'll do an episode of Entourage. And that's it. And then in 2 weeks, dude, I'm out. We're going to India. So it's actually ramping up pretty quickly. October 5th, I'm traveling. I'll be back October 21st. So October 7th to the 18th is when we would do the show. We're probably not doing the market close for those 10 days, but the market open we will try to do for all those days. And then 21st, I'm back. And then boom, we head into earnings season. And I like that it's earnings season right when I come back, because we get right back into the grind. And then we keep going from there. And then we have 2 months left and we're done with 2024, which is crazy. And we get into 2025 and it's officially a new year. How many times have you seen The Matrix? I saw the first one. People were saying that interview I did with the Palantir customer when he brought up The Matrix. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a classic. People were like, this motherfucker, he can't, it's not a classic. He doesn't know. I've actually watched The Matrix. I thought the second one was really boring, and the third one was just like, what is this? Like, why did they even do this? But the first one was good. It was not bad. I didn't love it though. I'm not like a super fan. It was okay. It was good. It was more than okay, but it wasn't like top 10 movie of all time. Like I think people who say that are exaggerating. At least a bit on Matrix. Gene says, I'm gonna spam your Twitter DM with information. Don't mind me. Yeah, dude. When I'm in India, I'm gonna need a lot of information. It's gonna be a wonky time, like 9:30 a.m. NYC to India is gonna be 7 p.m. in India. It's just gonna be weird, dude. Like it'll be the end of the day on my side, talking about the market open. But it's what's gonna have to be done. So 12 p.m. in NYC time is going to be 9:30 p.m. Well, I'm not going to sleep that early. I'm going to probably sleep at like 12 a.m. every day. So I'll probably still be able to keep up with a lot of news. It'll just be me like tweeting in the night while it's morning in the States. And that's it. All right. I think that's pretty much it, guys. I got some good recommendations. We'll check that out this weekend. Also, we'll still have Palantir Weekly tonight. So, Palantir Weekly. I've watched Breaking Bad, that's for sure. I've seen this as my favorite movie of all time. I've watched that one. Can't you get Arnie to do your show when you can't? Arnie's also in Italy, so the timing doesn't fully work for him as well. But no, I wish there was someone who could just like do the show. It's hard, bro. It's like, it's not easy. You got to be, when you like do your own business and like no one else can really do it the way you do it. You know this if you own a restaurant or, you like my dad owned a liquor store for years. Like there's a reason he worked every day, didn't really hire too many employees. A, because it's a little cheap, not going to lie. But B, because, he gets shit done himself. It's like, it's kind of hard to give up, especially media, to someone to try to do it themselves because it's a lot to navigate. You have to know how to do this. You have to know how to transition between topics. And also you've got to be able to talk about a variety of topics, So it's not the easiest thing to give off to someone. But, as we continue to go further and further, the big thing I want to do in 2025 is get more guests. I want to get a lot more contributors. Like I think this year, the contributors have been Chris, Steve, Matt Money, and yeah, that's pretty much those three. I mean, there's Jose. He's been consistent as a contributor. I think next year I want to get like 15 to 20 people that can contribute every week. I really want to find some girls that can contribute. It'd be really nice to have some girls who can talk markets. I'm going to just tell them to cover the chat so they don't have to worry about that. But it would be really nice to get a more diverse perspective onto the channel and just bring more people here. Can you get Dan Ives? Yeah, I can get Dan Ives once in a while, but he's not going to be able to join every day like on CNBC or anything, right? So it'll be trying to get people that can actually consistently join every single week. And that'll be fun. That'll be fun. I just want to get more perspectives. I want to get, and also it's nice to see, it's nice to hear from other people in finance other than just guys. Like, cause it's just like 24/7 guys talking. So when you get, that's why I think Liz Young, whether you agree or not disagree, like she's such a smart human being, and the way she condenses data, breaks it down. It's like nice to listen to other perspectives because it's a heavily dominated male industry in terms of just finance media. So I don't know where I would find the girls. I don't know. I don't know, LinkedIn. I'm going to search up like finance media correspondent and see if I find I don't know where to find these people. Like all the people that have been contributors to the channel, they've been organic connections that have came through just like Twitter. So I don't know if there's an agency for these people or how to find them. And also all the people on CNBC that are women, they're like part of like big firms like Goldman Sachs or research firms or stuff. And remember, to get on CNBC, dude, you have to do so many disclosures and all this shit, like just to get on the show because there's all this like corporate shit you have to deal with. YouTube streams are different. You can just hop on and just like start talking. But I'm going to have to develop connections with all those people to try to get them on as well. Not Grindr. Yes, not Grindr would be hard to find those people. All right. Oh, Eagle Eye. I've seen this one 5 times. Eagle Eye is great. Shia LaBeouf. Who's the girl in Eagle Eye? Is Megan Fox an Eagle Eye? No, she's not. She's not an Eagle Eye. No, Michelle Monaghan is her name. Yeah, but Shia LaBeouf was awesome in that show. I liked Eagle Eye. Eagle Eye was a good one. It's a pretty basic film though, but it's good. I like that one. I like that one as well. Interview a stripper from Rick. That wouldn't be a horrible idea, dude. That'd be a fun one. We got to get Gabrielle. We got to get Gabriella from JP Morgan. That would be awesome. We got to get that one. All right. Lynn Alden. Yes, I've been trying to get her. I know I can. I think she liked one of my tweets before. I can definitely. She's amazing on Bitcoin and macro. Yeah. So we got to try to get Lynn. She's awesome about that. All right. That's it. Enjoy your weekend, folks. We'll be back 11 p.m. for Palantir Weekly. Squid Game, their trailer came out yesterday. I am so excited for Squid Game. I am so excited. Squid Game was the one thing that I binged. When I mean binged, I mean 8 hours straight. I got through it. I cannot wait for the second season. I hope the second season doesn't disappoint. I don't think it will. For those that haven't seen Squid Game on Netflix, I would watch that before anything on Netflix. Second of all, put in the chat if you've seen it. I think that's one of the best shows of all time. Second of all, the Easter eggs in Squid Game are just phenomenal. If you watch YouTube breakdown videos of like the story itself, there are so much hidden details they put into that show. It was just one of the most original concepts I've seen ever. And I really love the show. So Squid Game 2 is coming out. That's going to be a fun one to watch. That comes out December 26th. So I'm going to binge that one right after Christmas because I love that one. That was a great show. It was not overrated, dude. There's a lot of shows that are. Squid Game was not overrated. It was not overrated. You could say the plot was kind of basic, but it was so unique that I thought it was different. Yes, 11 p.m. tonight. Squid Game's in Korean. Okay, so people will get mad at me. No, I watched it in English. But for all the people that get mad when I say I watched it in English because it's not like the authentic version, I want to understand what they're saying. So like, I don't want to read subtitles the whole time. So I know people get upset because you're not getting the true experience. But dude, like, I just want to hear English. Like, I want to hear, like, am I racist for that? Like, I just want to hear my regular language. So no, I didn't watch it in Korean, but I still thought it was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. Amit has said, all right, goodbye 10 times in the last 30 minutes. This is what happens every single time. But finally, we have to end the stream. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back 11 p.m. And then if I don't see you, 8:45 a.m. Monday, back for the market open. All right. That's it. Thank you, everybody. See you guys later. And if not, see you on Monday morning. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.